What is going on, theorists? Welcome back to Theory Hammer, and welcome to our Tactica series, where today we're going to be taking a look and breaking down the Adeptus Mechanicus, my favorite race in this entire game, although I'm not sure the best race in the entire game at this point. But we're going to see what we can unlock today. We're going to be going over the points and the best units, and we're going to be going over how they work with your army. We're going to be going over the best attachments, and I'm really excited to do it. I think there's really only one, but if you like that kind of content, excavate the like button, subscribe to Theory Hammer, leave a comment down below, let us know what you think of the Admech, let me know if I missed anything during this Tactica, if there's any obvious combos that I left out, or any units that you think were worth the cut that I didn't talk about. Hit the bell of Nurgle, and of course, check out our other videos as well, because we have all kinds of content out there. We got new content on the way, and we're making new content regularly. So let's go right into it. Let's see what we can get out of the Admech. Let's start right off by talking about these guys' detachments and kind of how the army plays overall. So generally speaking, your army has some pretty cheap units that are actually pretty good at shooting. You don't have a whole lot of combat, but you do have some tricks you can pull. You have some stuff that can make some stuff slow, like your Electro Priests. You've got some pretty hard-hitting units like your Breachers or your Cataphrons, whatever the hell they're called. I think they're just Breachers. But the ones with the heavy arc rifles, they hit very hard against vehicles. You can buff them up in a bunch of different ways. And now that you just got a new codex, you're actually able to take a better advantage of the units that you have because you're able to outfit them with different kinds of rules. But as a general rule in 10th edition, when it comes to the Adeptus Mechanicus, you are not playing a combat army anymore. You do not have combat output. You've got some pretty cool tanks. You've got some good transports. You have really cheap, fast skirmishing units with your chicken walkers. You have other cheap, fast units for secondaries. You've got a lot of really cheap things. And the best part about all of this is it costs about as many points as dollar bills to play this goddamn army. Not only are they very underpowered, although we're going to go over their good builds and the good things they can do. You can definitely take them to a good spot with the right builds. But yo, they are so expensive to play. You want a chicken walker? That'll be $45. You want 3 units of dogs? That'll be $60. How many points are those? They're 60 points and 45 points. Your best bet would be to just buy a bunch of disintegrators if you wanted to play Admech, because then you won't go bankrupt playing a bad army and losing all your money all at the same time. I encourage you to go out there and see how much these things cost based on how many points they are. It is completely outrageous. There's absolutely no fucking justification for it. Oh man, it makes me want to rage. And at the end of the day, I've probably spent $4,000 on Admech. But the kicker is that I haven't spent $4,000 on enough Admech to play Admech in 10th edition. Because the best army that you're going to run wants to run 27 chicken walkers. Not really, I don't think you actually need to run that many of them. But if you really wanted to run that many of them, that'll be $1,200, plus tax, plus shipping, plus the time it takes to build and paint them all. Yeah, it just sounds fucking terrible to me. Thankfully, I already own everything. I just can't run 27 of those fucking things. But okay, let's get to their data sheets and their enhancements and stratagems and all that cool stuff so that you at least know what you're getting when you're throwing all your money away. And we're just going to talk about it right off the bat, the Skitarii Hunter cohort. This has stealth optimizations as your detachment rule instead of terrible battle shocked or maybe take a couple of mortal wounds. It's just fuck that. This instead says that Skitarii infantry, Skitarii mounted, and Iron Strider Ballistari units from your army have stealth. And each time a ranged attack targets a Skitarian unit from your army, unless the attacking model is within 12 inches, the target has the benefit of cover against that attack. So all your infiltrators, all your rust stalkers, which you're just going to take infiltrators because of their secondary capabilities, but those have cover now and stealth. And so that's really good. Your whole army being -1 to hit, your whole army is like super duper cheap, and so that kind of does add up when it's not just 1 or 2 units that are -1 to hit, when it's your whole army that's -1 to hit. For ranged attacks, that's pretty good. Now, if you recall the Admech's army rule, it's the Doctrina Imperatives. So at the start of the battle round, you select one of the Doctrinas, and you have it until the end of the battle round. If you do the Protector, you get heavy on your ranged, which is completely useless. And then if you're in your deployment zone, you have +1 AP. Otherwise, you take Conqueror, which is that your ranged weapons have Assault, which is much better. And each time you make a ranged attack that targets an enemy unit within their own deployment zone, you get +1 AP. So you combine that with the Skitarii Hunter cohort, now you can move really fast and be getting Assault and Stealth. That's pretty nice to have. It forces your opponent to get into combat with you. So let's see if they have anything that can kind of help them mitigate the amount of damage that a combat army is really going to do to them. Because they're not going to be doing outrageous amounts of damage with their BS4 now. So let's take a look at some of the stratagems and enhancements, starting with the enhancements. The Cantic Thrall Net goes on a Marshal at the start of the battle round, and you get both of your doctrines. So you get Assault, you get Heavy, you get +1 to your AP if you're in your deployment zone shooting, or if the opponent is in their deployment zone getting hit. That's 25 points. It goes on a unit of 10 guys. I'm not huge on that one. So it's interesting because you can put this on anybody within 12. It doesn't have to be the unit that he's leading, so you can put it on any Skitarii unit. Now, I'm not sure why you would want to put both of those on one unit, because you can't actually use both of the abilities unless I'm missing something there, but that is your Cantic Thrall Net. The Clandestine Infiltrator is the best one by far, 20 points. It's Skitarii model only, so really just a Marshal, because I don't know of any other characters that are Skitarii, except for the Skatros, and that thing is dumb. But this gives the unit Infiltrators and Scout. So you give this to a Marshal, he gives his unit Infiltrators and Scout 6 inches. That's awesome. Auto take, give me that, take it all the time. And not even just for being able to scout up and make people's life miserable. You can scout up this unit. It's going to have reroll hits with their Marshal. It's going to have a bunch of special weapons in there, so it'll actually be able to put out a decent amount of damage. If your opponent is in your deployment zone, now they're +1 to their AP if you take the right protocol. I could see that being pretty awesome, so that's definitely one of the best ones. The Veiled Hunter's 20 points, goes on a Skitarii Marshal, of course. Then after both players have deployed their armies and determined who has the first turn, you can select up to 3 Skitarii infantry units from your army, redeploy them. You can put them into reserve. Amazing. For 20 points, after you know who's going first, like, that's just great. If you really wanted to, you could pick up your Clandestine Infiltrators unit, put them into reserve, or just put them into a safe spot, plus 2 other Skitarii infantry units, which could be the guys with jump packs, it could be your battle line guys, and I think that's probably it though. But yeah, redeploy 3 units for 20 points. Oh my god, so good. And what does our Battle Sphere uplink do? This is on Skitarii model only. In your shooting phase, after the bearer has shot, if it's not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, that unit can make a normal move up to 6 inches, but if it does, it can't charge. So move, shoot, move, not bad. 30 points. Steep, pretty steep indeed, but move, shoot, move could be good on a unit. Giving them infiltrators and then redeploying, though, are definitely the 2 best. And for 40 points, I would probably save 40 points for those every single time. I kind of have to. And so right off the bat, we're seeing some enhancements that give us some pretty good stuff. Without knowing any of the data sheets, we have the ability to give stuff infiltrators and scout 6 inches. We have the ability to redeploy 3 Skitarii infantry units. Now, how about the stratagems? You have the Bionic Endurance for 1 CP. It's in your opponent's shooting or fight phase. You pick a Sakaran, Taraxi, Sidonian unit from your army that was the target. They just get a 5-up beyond no pain. So damn, 1 CP strategic ploy. It's not a battle tactics, although I don't know if you can get free ones. I don't remember. I think the Marshal has an ability with stratagems, but I don't think it gives them out for free. But being able to give out 5-up feel no pain on a unit of 3 Chicken Walker guys, the Iron Striders, yeah, I mean, they're toughness 7. That's pretty strong. Even giving that to some of the 2 wound guys, having that 5-up feel no pain, very, very strong. You could even be giving this to the dogs. I believe they have the Sidonian keyword as well. I guess I call them dogs. They're more like horses, but you can give these to the horses. Oh, it's just a very, very good stratagem. Benharic Offense for 2 CP. It's at the start of your shooting phase or fight phase, any fight phase. You pick 2 Skitarii units from your army that have not been selected to shoot or fight, and 1 enemy unit. Until the end of the phase, you get +1 AP, which is super duper good. Now all your little guns are AP1. Your plasma becomes like AP4. It's rerolling hits probably because it has a Marshal in the unit, and maybe both units. So they're both rerolling hits most likely, maybe, maybe not. But maybe they got out of a transport that turn, and maybe they're rerolling wounds. So getting that +1 AP is very, very good. And it does not have to be infantry. Like, this could be 2 of your Scorpius tanks. This could be 2 of your Dune crawlers. So that's pretty interesting. Benhuric offense, 2 CP. The next one you got is the Expedited Purge Protocol. This happens in your charge phase. You pick a Skitarii unit from your army, and then until the end of the phase, it's eligible to advance and charge. So this is going to be done on your Sicaran guys, the Infiltrators, or the Ruststalkers. Neither of them are really great in combat, but if you need to be able to advance and charge that turn, maybe get disruption, get in there, disrupt some stuff, you have this as well. But more importantly, you can use this on a unit of Chicken Walkers, and so they can advance up after moving, I think, 10, and they get to charge afterward. And they have Lance in combat. They're pretty good with strength, I think, either 7 or 8, like AP 1 or 2 and 2 damage. They're good in combat on a charge is the point. And they're cheap. And they cost a lot of money. And so this is really, really good on them specifically. On anything else, kind of meh. But Chicken Walkers are so good. You can take so many of them. You can have a backfield of 9 las cannons with sustained hits. You can have a midfield of a bunch of little sniper guys. And then you can have 9 of them charging up with lances, just fucking shit up. Giving stuff a 5-up feel no pain. Improving the armor penetration by 1. Like if you needed that on maybe like 2 units that had auto cannons of Chicken Walkers, you can do that on them. Like you have so much utility and a lot of versatility for damage output. So what's up next? Your Shroud protocols. So even more durability probably because you're already getting a 5-up feel no pain on stuff and you have stealth. So what does this do? It's 1 CP. It's in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit selects its target. You target a Skitarii infantry unit from your army that was the target of those attacks. Till the end of the phase, your unit can't be selected as the target unless the enemy is within 12. So that is also really, really good. You're just like, now I have lone op. Just randomly being like, hey, I can now have lone op is very, very good. And you guys all know that. And for 1 CP, I mean strategic point, but still for 1 CP, absolutely amazing. You have lone op, you have +1 AP, you have advance and charge, you have a 5-up feel no pain, you have all these really good stratagems. And then your last one is programmed withdrawal. It's at the end of your opponent's fight phase. Tell me you can go into strategic reserve. Up to 2 Sicaran units from your army or 1 Skitarii infantry unit or Skitarii mounted unit. Remove them from the battlefield, yeah, put them into strategic reserve. Can't be within 3 inches of an enemy when you do it, but amazing. Amazing. You're like, hey, I've got these infiltrators that got me some secondaries. We're going to put them into reserve. They're going to come down next turn. This unit over here, they're going to have a 5-up feel no pain. These 2 units of Iron Striders, they're going to be +1 AP. This unit of Chicken Walkers over here with lances, they're going to advance and charge. Like, wow. Do I even need to go over any of the other detachments at this point? We will, though. The only other one that I think is worth talking about, which is probably the Data Psalm Conclave. And so this lets you pick something that you get at the start of the battle round, and you get it for the entire battle. You either get +1 AP within half range, or you get +1 strength and attacks if you made a charge. And it's only for your Cult Mechanicus units. But I think the Cult Mechanicus has some pretty interesting units. And of course, you're going to have a stratagem that lets you get both of these. Or lets you change one to the other. But let's go over the enhancements first. You got a Tech Priest model only for the Mechanicus Locum, 10 points. It unbattle shocks a unit, so I don't care. But for 10 points, not a bad thing to have. If you are battle shocked, you can just unbattle shock. So that's nice to have if you need some stratagems put on something. You need something to be able to control an objective. So on and so forth. Then you have Mantle of the Gnostic Arc, 15 points. Tech Priest model only. All damage against the bearer becomes 1. Pretty good durability buff there, because those things have a 2-up save, and generally have an invuln with like 4 wounds or so. At least the Tech Priest Dominus and Manipulus. The next one is your Blessed Auto Sermon, your Data Blessed Auto Sermon for 20 points, also on a Tech Priest, which gives him a once per battle ability to change his benediction to the other one, where you get both actually. So that is just what I was expecting. And then you also have the Temper Coria for 25 points, which is on a Tech Priest as well, and it gives the bearer's unit fights first. So automatically, we instantly know that that's going to go on something like the Cataphrons with the Hydraulic Claws, because they actually punch pretty good, and if they're getting fights first, they're actually very hard to charge into at that point, You can make them really durable against shooting, and so your opponent might actually have to get into combat with them. And that is a really good one. That's probably the best one that you got here. Data Blast Auto Servant's also really good. You can give them +1 attack and +1 strength on the turn that they charge. That's another thing you can do. So those two are really good. Now let's take a look at your strats. Incantation of the Iron Soul, 1 CP. It's in any phase. It's just after you allocate a mortal wound to one of your units. You get a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. Very niche nowadays. These types of abilities aren't very common. Things that do a lot of mortal wounds are very rare, but it's one of those nice to haves. But hopefully some of these other ones can help a little bit more. Like Chant of the Remorseless Fist for 1 CP. It's a battle tactic as well. But the chant happens in the fight phase. You pick a unit that has not been selected to fight, and you get +1 to your wound. So now you can have fights first with +1 to wound, or you can have +1 to wound with 1 extra attack and 1 extra strength. Maybe somehow both, if you can double up on units, they can, but I don't think you can. I don't think you can double up on 2 characters leading a unit that both have a relic like that, at least in this army. But then you have the Verse of Vengeance for 1 CP. This is in the fight phase, just after an enemy selects its target. Obviously, you pick the target that was their target, and you get Fights on Death on a 4-up. So also pretty good. It's only 1 CP, which is why it's on a 4-up, but hell yeah, nice to have. You then have Tribute of the Emphatic Veneration for 1 CP. Strategic Ploy as well, and this is the start of your movement phase. So both the Verse of Vengeance and the Tribute are strategic ploys. So far 2 battle tactics, 2 strategic ploys, but the Tribute happens at the start of your movement phase. You target a Cult Mechanicus unit from your army and 1 enemy unit within 18. The enemy unit takes a battle shock test. If it's failed until the start of your next command phase, each time a model in the enemy unit makes an attack, you subtract 1 from the hit roll, and that is absolute garbage. Litany of the Electromancer happens in your shooting phase. You target a Cult Mechanicus unit from your army. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 6, and you add 1 if it's an Electro Priest. On a 5-up, they suffer d3 mortal wounds. Very not great. And then Luminescent Blessing happens in your opponent's shooting phase. It's basically rotate ion shields. You get a 4-up invuln against ranged attacks because it happens in the shooting phase. So that one is really strong. Fights on Death is great. +1 to wound is great. But overall, not a lot of crazy rules there. I do really like the +1 AP with ranged weapons though, as the detachment rule, because the game is fought in the middle. So if you're getting close up where people are getting into charge range, now you're getting +1 AP against them. All of your Electro Priests that are strength 5, if you get them within half range by getting out of a transport, now you're strength 5 AP 1 with reroll all wounds. Your Cataphren guys are going to be another +1 AP, so they'll be like AP 3 if they're within half range. Or you could go something kind of combat heavy and try to get the +1 strength and attacks on the charge. Personally, I don't know. I do like that +1 AP within half range for shooting. Getting that +1 AP within half range is really nice. It's just a shame that your army rule, you don't benefit from it. Because if you could get Assault and be getting all that stuff, now you're talking. Now you're talking an army that can really start putting out some damage and can really start moving quickly. But alas. Let's talk about some of their data sheets, because that is another thing that we are here to do. There aren't too many. They're mostly just the Skitarii units, and they always really have been. And so let's start it off with the Dominus himself. He's 75 points. He gives the unit that he leads a 5-up Feel No Pain. He can hurt vehicles. He's okay in combat with 4 attacks, a strength 6, AP 2, and damage 2. And with his ranged guns, his Volkite Blaster is probably the one you're going to go with. It's the Dev Wounds 1, strength 5, AP 0, damage 2. 3 shots at 24 inches Dev Wounds. He's got a 2-up save, a 5-up invuln with 4 wounds himself. You'll probably give him a Phosphor thing also, which is a little pistol thing. Strength 5, AP 1, damage 2 with ignores cover, so that's kind of nice. But he just attaches to the unit, gives him a 5-up Feel No Pain for 75 points, takes an upgrade like Fights First, and you go about your day doing cool stuff. Now the Manipulus is a similar unit. He's only 55 points though, because he gives you a once per game ability, which is at the start of any phase. He just gives the unit a 4-up invuln, which is also really good. But while he's leading the unit, they have lethal hits, and so you can put this on him as well and give them Fights First, and then you have lethal hits on everything, and once per game 4-up invuln. So that's pretty cool as well. He's not as good in combat because he's only AP 1, but otherwise, 4 attacks, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage. And he's got some cool weapons. He's got his transonic cannon, which is a dev wound flamer that's 2 damage. And so everyone loves the transonic cannon. He is basically the same amount of durability. He's got a toughness of 4, a 5-up invuln, 2-up save. So he's basically the same, but just kind of fills a little bit of a different role. You then also have the Marshal, who is 35 points, gives the unit rerolls hits, and you can target his unit with a stratagem even if they've been targeted by something else that phase. So awesome little guy for 35 points. He's just 3 wounds with a 5-up invuln and 4-up save, but you just take him to put some enhancements like infiltrate on them, like on the guys that he leads, like the Rangers and the Vanguard, and then you give them the ability to get extra strats on them, give them rerolls hit, all for 35 points. That's super duper good because they ignore cover when they shoot, like the guys that he's leading do. It's just awesome. I'm a huge fan of the Skitarii Marshal, but the best one probably, well, arguably, is the Tech Priest Engine Seer for 45 points. He's got a 3-up save and a 5-up invuln with 3 wounds, and as he always is in every other codex, he's a lone op near vehicles if he's within 3 inches of them. He's got a different ability than other ones though. When he targets a unit, he can repair it in your command phase within 3 inches, regains D3 lost wounds, but it also gains a 5-up Feel No Pain. And then of course if you destroy a vehicle near him, he goes ballistic and gets an attack characteristics of 6 with his axe, so strength 6, AP 2, and damage 2. Hitting on 4s on this dude, but still. He starts to slap really hard, and he can join a bunch of random units if you want to, like breachers and rangers and that kind of stuff, but you're just going to keep him near vehicles, make him a lone op that way. Hopefully your vehicles don't explode and kill him, because that's a thing. But giving them that 5-up Feel No Pain, oh yes, it's so good. So good. And so those are basically your best characters. I mean, the Skatros exists. It's a lone op for 65 points. That's all it does. It makes the unit take a battle shock, and I don't care. And so since I mentioned the Stilt Man, let's talk about the Dragoons and the Iron Striders and all that stuff next. Starting with the Dragoons with the Lances, because these things are awesome. So yep, they move 10. They got a toughness of 7 with 7 wounds. 3-up save, 5-up invuln all the time. They do all have a Phosphorus of Penta. It's not going to do too much, hitting on 4s, but it's strength 5, AP 1, damage 2. It'll plink off stuff here and there. But you're here for its combat. It's 4 attacks at strength 7, AP 2, and damage 2 with Lance. And sustained hits too. So even a unit of 3 of these things with 12 attacks, you're going to get 6 hits. 2 of them will be 6s. That'll be 4 additional hits, and that'll be 10 hits overall. Add strength 7, AP 2, and damage 2, and then you're going to be +1 to wound with those 10 hits. Add strength 7, AP 2, and damage 2. You're basically a Custodes profile at that point, but with Lance. And so it's up against the right targets, it'll actually be able to punch above its weight. And just for kicks, it's Anti-Walker 2+. So that's just kind of funny. So a unit of these things could drive right into a Forge Fiend and actually kill it. Great unit. These things have stealth. They can charge in a turn in which they advanced or fell back. And so you actually don't even need to use the stratagem on these things. They can just get it for free. It's a super good unit. You can also reroll Desperate Escape test taken for this unit, which is also kind of relevant sometimes, but not always. But that's just really nice because people can't really tie them up when they're moving 10 inches. It's just like, all right, getting out of combat, and like, oh, roll those dice. And you're like, cool, I failed 1. I'm going to reroll it. I'm good. And then if you do take the tether of the data, each time you target them with a strat, you gain that CP back on a 5+. So you give them that 5-up Feel No Pain, well, you get it back on a 5-up. 60 points for one of them, so they are a little bit more expensive because they are pretty good. So 180 points for 3. 3 units of these things is 540 points. That's absolutely crazy. It's very scary. Pretty durable for its points. Very, very fast. And I really like them. I think that they're very, very good. And so keeping in line with them, we'll talk about the Iron Striders, which are only 50 points. So they're for 3 of them, you're spending 150 points, and they're each going to have either the autocannon or the las cannon. I do think that the las cannon is better because it's got the sustained hits 1. It's twin linked, so that's strength 12, AP 3, D6 +1 damage. Yes, it hits on 4s, but you can be giving it assault. If you're getting up there first turn, it's going to be AP 4 because you're shooting at your opponent in their deployment zone probably. Or if you're just shooting from your backfield and you need to do something that way, it's still just nice to have that sustained hits 1. Because if you miss with 2 but roll a 6 on 1, you're still getting 2 hits and then they're twin linked. So for 150 points, it makes sense because they're not putting a lot of damage through. But the damage they do like hit with is gonna get through reliably because it has twin linked. And they have the same profile, toughness 7 with 7 wounds, 3 up save with a 5 up invuln. These guys can also shoot in a turn in which they fell back or advanced, and so they're just super duper good, and they can reroll Desperate Escape tests taken for models in their unit. So same thing as the other dudes we just talked about, the Taser Lance guys, and then each time you target these guys, if they have that Data Tether on a 5-up, you get that CP back. Like, you can't go wrong with these things. They're so fast with 10-inch move, super cheap, good shooting, sustained hits and twin linked on their shooting. Like, they're just great. Advanced shoot, awesome. And then you have the guys with the Radium Giselles, and they're all different data sheets now, so that's why you can take so many of them. You can take 3 units of each kind, and each one has 3 guys in the unit. So 9 times 3 is 27. These stupid things are only 45 points for the same profile, so they're super duper tough for 45 points, and they just take this Radium Giselle thing. They reroll hits against a specific unit, which is dumb, but the Radium thing's cool, I guess. It's flat 3 damage with AP2 and precision, so you can try to snipe out characters with it. These won't ever do anything to anyone, but they will sit around and just be a huge annoying body that's stealthy. They just take up so much space because their bases are actually huge. It's just funny how fucking cheap these things are. Like, you're paying 135 points for 21 wounds at toughness 7 that has a 3-up save and a 5-up invuln that can move fast. Oh yeah. I don't really like these very much. Like, if I were going to run Admech in this edition, which I will, I wouldn't take those ones. I would just take 3 of the Taser Lances, 3 units of 3, and 3 of the shooty ones. So now we're going to talk about the transport, because it is awesome now. It's only 80 points. It's a little bit more durable than a Rhino. You know, same stats, but 11 wounds instead of 10. Moves 12. Transports 12 guys, as long as they don't have jump packs. As long as they're not the cataphrons. But when you get out from this thing, when it shoots that target, anything else that shoots that target rerolls wounds. So this is a pretty common thing that we see on transports, but it's really good. Giving out reroll wounds for 80 points for a transport that's durable, has a bunch of guns by itself. You get like 18 shots with twin linked and sustained hits 1 with a bolter. It's pretty good shooting against infantry. Looking at about 9 hits with an extra 3, so you're looking at around 12 hits. It's okay, you know, you're going to be killing some infantry here and there. And I think these, in the right builds, these are really good. Because being able to pop like Electro Priest out of these things that are all +1 AP and sustained hits 2, that's a cool thing you can do with these things. Just put your infantry in there, drive them up, give them a transport. Transports are really good in 10th edition, and so this is great. Too bad you don't have a firing deck on it. That would be a little outrageous if you did, but they're awesome. Having infantry units that pop out of these things with reroll all hits with their marshal, reroll all wounds, getting 2 units that can get strats put on them because one has a marshal, maybe both even have the marshal, but just putting out lots of strats on stuff, reroll hits, reroll wounds, durable enough tank, it just helps you play the game. It's just great, and so I like it a lot. The Disintegrator makes me sad. This thing's 180 points. It gets +1 to hit against its target, like if you take the Fervomite cannon, it's going to be hitting on 3s against monsters and vehicles. It's kind of durable with a 2-up save, 12 wounds, toughness 10, and it's got a bunch of guns. But for 180 points, it's a lot. It has no combat whatsoever. But I don't know. Its Disruptor missile is kind of nice. It just needs to have a better ballistic skill is the problem. So whatever, we're not talking about that thing. Let's move on to some of their battle line, and then we'll move on to some of their secondary units. But let's go to the battle line with the Vanguard. So your Vanguard are some basic battle line guys. OC2, toughness 3 with a 4-up save and a 5-up invuln. They move 6, and they make your opponent subtract 1 from their OC while the enemy is within 3 inches of them. So that's actually pretty good. It doesn't work against vehicles because it's like radiating them, and so the vehicles protect the guys inside, but everyone else is -1 OC. So if you charge these guys into combat, you'll actually probably take away stuff from your opponent because they'll out-OC you with OC2. They're 80 points, and they have 10 guys in the unit, so only 8 points apiece. You can take an arc rifle, a plasma thing, and the Transuranic Arquebus, which is a sniper thing. And you're also going to take the Omnispec so that you have ignores cover. And so that's pretty nice. I mean, the arc rifle's definitely nice to have if you're within half range, 2 shots of anti-vehicle 4+ with dev wounds, at strength 8 and D3 damage, so that's not bad. The plasma is always just good with 2 shots at strength 8 AP3 and 2 damage if you overcharge. And you get that other strength 7 AP2 D3 damage shot with the trends, whatever the fuck. And just for 80 points for being able to do -1 OC to your opponent when they get onto that objective, that's really, really nice. And you don't actually have to charge your opponent to do this. You can just be within 3 inches. And so that's a pretty nice to have ability. If you're actually in combat with something and then using them to just sling up onto an objective, like to be able to consolidate onto it, if you end up consolidating within 3 inches of an opponent's unit, you will make them -1 to their OC. And so some of their stuff on there might even become OC 0 if it's just OC 1. So these are just really great. Skitarii Vanguard are pretty good, although I do like the Rangers more simply because they have Scout 6 inches and they're battle line. Not only are they battle line and Scout 6 inches, they have sticky objectives. Like, I don't know how you go wrong with these. They have the same profile, the same war gear options, just a different ability, and they're only 9 points apiece. They're 90 points for 10 of them. 4 up save, 5 up invuln. Their rifles are actually different, so their guns are different. These guys have a 2-shot gun at 30 inches, whereas the other guys have a 3-shot gun at 18 that's anti-infantry 4+. And that would be those radium guys on the Vanguard, so yeah, different guns and abilities, but overall same profile and same upgrade options. And so for basic battle line guys, they're super duper good. Alright, so then we got the Infiltrators. The Infiltrators have Infiltrate and Stealth. They make enemy units take a battle shock test during the fight phase if they're in combat, and they make opponent's units -1 if they're within 6, so that's always going to be at -1. And then if you're within range of battle line guys, which are great and you should take lots of them, your opponent subtracts 2 from it instead, like from their leadership test. So kind of an interesting way to cause battle shock if you're really trying to go down that route with like a rad zone cohort or something. But overall, just being a relatively cheap unit for 70 points and having Infiltrators, they have a pretty big base. And so I really like them just for being able to play the mission, make some walls, get in your opponent's way. These are going to be units that you take to win games and not actually to do any kind of damage with, although in melee, you will get 2 attacks with sustained hits 2 at strength 6, so you can kind of skirmish with some light infantry, but even then, these really don't do all that much damage. Like, even their guns are strength 4 and strength 3 with varying amounts of shots, but that hitting on 4s is just so unreliable, and getting damage out with it is just very difficult. So, but set for 70 points, Infiltrators, great unit. And while we're on the topic, we'll talk about the Raiders, the Skitarii Raiders, because they have Scout 9 inches. They can do like a move thing if your opponent ends within 9 inches of them. It's either D6 or it's 6, provided you end within 6 of a battle line unit. But for the Scout 9 inches, for 60 points for 3, that's awesome. And you know why. Not very durable, but they do have a galvanic carbine thing, which is a 3-shot dev wound gun. So taken in volume, these guys could actually be putting out a decent amount of damage as skirmishing units. So you have 120 points, get 9 hits, get a dev wound or 2, it's fine. But they also have some melee weapons. It's 4 attacks at strength 4, AP1, and damage 1. Not bad. It's all just rolled into one profile. They don't have any extra attacks or anything. But just for some little dog guys, they're pretty good for having that Scout 9 inches. They also have a 12-inch move, and so Scout 9 plus that 12 is going to be a 21. In some cases, that's enough to get you onto your opponent's backfield objective turn 1 if you grab that secondary, which is like control enemy outpost or some shit. But they're also a Skitarii. Like, all the units I've mentioned are Skitarii because they generally benefit the most because they actually get your army rule. And in things like the Skitarii Hunter cohort, they're going to be getting that stealth, and they're going to be benefiting from your stratagems a lot more. We do have 1 or 2 other secondary units to talk about. You got your Sterilizers and your Sky Stalkers. The Sterilizers are actually not bad just for doing damage because they all have a flamer, except for the Sergeant. They get to reroll wounds of 1 if the enemy that they're shooting is within range of an objective marker, which generally things are. But if these guys are within 6 inches of a battle line unit, they also reroll wounds entirely. For 65 points for Deep Strike, for a reroll wounds flamer unit, I think that they are awesome. You don't have to worry about the ballistic skill problem of the army because they just have a bunch of flamers. You do get a bunch of reroll wounds there, or just reroll wounds of 1 if you're kind of out by yourself, but overall just really good because 65 points in Deep Strike. Take 2 units, pick up Investigate Signals turn 2 or turn 3, pop them down in the corners, or just bring them down and do other secondaries in the turns that you need them to, use them to get in your opponent's way, all that kind of fun stuff. Secondary units are all kind of the same at the end of the day. They all kind of play the same way. You're either getting points with them, or you're bothering your opponent with them, or you're putting them in your opponent's way. I think that kind of does it for like all the secondary units. We'll talk about a few more like damage units. So first, we're going to talk about the Dune Crawler, which is awesome. This thing is a 10 toughness, 11 wounds, and a 2-up save and a 4-up invuln. So pretty tanky. It's 140 points, so it's right around the right amount of points, I think. It's unfortunate that it only hits on 4s. But this thing also has a really nice ability, which is that battle line units that are within, specifically models that are within 6 inches of it, wholly within, get a 4-up invulnerable save against ranged attacks. So you can take a couple of these things for 280 points, give all your battle line a 4-up invuln, and then with some Tech Priest Engineers or Engine Seers, you can be giving these things a 5-up Feel No Pain. And so you can actually make them pretty damn durable. With a 2-up save, in cover, 4-up invuln, 5-up Feel No Pain, then you actually have to dedicate a lot of firepower to kill them. And when your opponent has to overcommit too much stuff to kill one thing, that usually leaves you in a good position either way, even if they are able to get through it. And so these things are pretty good. I'd probably take the Icarus Array on them just to have as many shots as possible, because you also get the Delius Missile as well, and probably just because it's on 4-ups. The Neutron Laser is interesting, but it's just not enough damage and just not enough shots. If it was like 2 shots but at flat 6 damage or something, I could see taking that instead. But because it's a D6 plus 1, I'm just not about that one either. But I think for this thing's ability to give you that 4-up invuln, that's really, really good. Now let's talk about the Breachers. The Breachers are 290 points for the full 6-man unit. They always reroll hit rolls of 1, and they do full rerolls while they're within 6 inches of a battle line unit. And so with their ranged guns, with their arc rifles that are 2 shots apiece, with rapid fire 2 at 30 inches, so you get within 15, 4 shots apiece at strength 8, AP 2, and damage 3 flat, with anti-vehicle 4+, rerolling all your hits. Yeah, you really start to just wipe vehicles off the table at that point. Because you're talking 12 shots, that's 6 hits. Out of the rerolls, you're talking 9. Out of the 9 wounds you go to roll for, you get anti-vehicle 4 up. That's still 4 wounds on the vehicle. That is going to be AP 2 and 3 damage. And then in combat, each one of them has a hydraulic claw with 2 attacks, a strength 8, AP 2, and 3 damage. So the same exact profile as their heavy arc rifle. So hydraulic claw, way to go. This is one of your best damage dealing output units in your army, which is kind of unfortunate because it's a 290 point unit. But look at their profile. They're toughness 7 with 3 wounds apiece. They do have a 3-up save and a 6-up invuln. And they are infantry, so they can hide behind walls, bust right through, shoot a bunch of stuff, get into combat and actually do some damage, and be re-rolling their hits. And that's for shooting in combat, as long as they're within range of the battle line unit. So the army really encourages you to kind of play like the synergistic role between your battle line units and your other units, because they gain a benefit from being around your battle line units. And then I think the last thing that we have to talk about is the Electro Priest with guns, because these things are hilarious and very difficult to build. They each have 3 shots with sustained hits 2 at strength 5, AP 0, and damage 1. In combat, it's the same profile, it's just hitting on 4s. They have a 5-up Feel No Pain, they have a 5-up invuln with 1 wound at toughness 3, but their electroshock ability is awesome, because in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, select one enemy unit that isn't a monster or vehicle that gets hit by their attacks. And then until the end of your opponent's next turn, that enemy unit's shocked, and while they're shocked, they subtract 2 from their move, their advance, and their charge rolls. 60 points for 5 of these things. Just put them in your army for the sheer fact that they can slow down units. Get them in your opponent's way, slow something down, and just be like, what are you going to do about it? Nothing, because you can't, because I hit you, and that's the rule. So Electro Priests are really, really good. I could even see these things being taken in the Data Psalm Conclave and just being +1 AP at half range, or just getting an extra attack in combat with an extra strength. That could be kind of funny. But even just getting strength 5 AP 1, jumping out of his transport, getting reroll wounds, that could be interesting as well. Because of all the sustained hits too, you can take these in units of 10, 30 attacks, it's 10 extra hits, so it brings you back to 30 hits. So yeah, no, I mean, but then also being able to slow things down is just so good. So I would probably take these in small units, probably just 2 units of these things. You can actually play MSU builds with Admech pretty easily. And so you can just take a couple of these things, slow down the important units you need to on that turn, and call it a day, which is what I'm going to do right now. We're going to call it a day, because that's the end. We have come to the end of the data sheets there. Now I think it's a pretty clear who the winner is here. It's definitely the Skitarii Hunter cohort, and I didn't even bother going over the other ones because they're not even anywhere near as close, and so unfortunately, Admech are still fucking terrible unless you're playing the Hunter cohort, in which case they're playable for sure. They've got some good stuff they can do in there. I'm not even gonna deny that. Like the Skitarii Hunter cohort, definitely very strong. But they don't fix the army, they don't like make the problems of the army okay. It just makes the army playable. You got 1 detachment out of 5 that's really competitive. The Data Slalom Conclave is pretty good as well, but not on the same level as the Hunter cohort. And like I said, the other ones aren't even worth mentioning, and I sincerely mean that. If you really want me to talk about them, let me know in the comments down below and I will go over them. But overall, your armies are gonna look a lot like having a lot of battle lines, probably a unit or 2 of breachers, tons of little units like the Raiders at the Cerberus Raiders, lots of chickens, lots and lots of chickens, more chickens after that, and then some chickens for dinner. But you have really good battle line, you have really good secondary units, you've got the sterilizers, you've got the infiltrators, you've got the horseman dudes, the raiders. So all those are great for secondary play. Plus your battle line has sticky objectives and it can scout 6 inches if you're taking that kind. So I think that's just, you can't pass that up. They're just really good for 90 points. They have pretty good shooting. They ignore cover, decent amount of special weapons, and overall just access to a lot of pretty good units. You can kind of just put a lot of good units out onto the field, never be getting worse than a 5-up save because you have an invuln on everything. If you really need to bump it to a 4-up, you can have some Dune Crawlers in there with some Tech Priests to give them the Feel No Pain, just to make sure that they stay alive. If you're popping Rangers in there, hell, you could even just have 3 Onagers and a bunch of units of Rangers that give them a 4-up invuln, and just -1 OC to anything within 3 inches. Your opponent has to cleave through tons of 4-up invulns in that case, and then 5-up invulns if they're in combat, because I don't think the Onager gives you the invuln in combat. But those Vanguards aren't slouches at shooting either, because they got all the special weapons in there. So you got some good play you can do. Your secondary units are pretty damn cheap. They're going to play the same way as every other secondary unit, but in combination with some really cheap, good battle line units, kind of just clogging up the table with a bunch of decent enough guns, and some pretty durable infantry for their points costs that have good OC, scout, they have like good abilities, sticky objectives. Those are the armies that you're going to want to see. Those are the units that you're going to want to take, because that's really going to be the only way that you're going to be able to win games pretty efficiently, is by taking, the units that I talked about here, and you're going to need to play with them in the way that I'm describing. When you just have so many of them, yeah, they're not great at shooting, but you have so many of them that they kind of just start to whittle down your opponent, wound after wound after wound. Your opponent kills 1 unit here. It was actually, harder than they thought because they had a 5-up invuln and a 4-up save and they were in cover. So it took more than they expected, and then they're getting shot back by 3 other units that they didn't have a chance to kill yet. They're being -1 OC on this objective over here. These 2 objectives in the back that they can't really reach are sticky objectives. Your secondary units have been popping around. So that's how the army's going to play. It's a lot of fun. It just isn't very good. I'm glad that this army got a new codex because they really needed some help, and the Skitarii Hunter cohort gave it to them. And it's nice because I own most of those models. I've just spent so much fucking money on the Adeptus Mechanicus in my life. I really don't want to spend more on them. I don't have enough chicken walkers to run 27. I'm not going to run 27. But I'm sure you will see something like that winning some kind of competitive event at some point, because there's just way too many bodies to get through, and they all have a 5-up invuln. So against those armies that have that really hard-hitting anti-tank, it's like, well, actually... And 7 wounds is weird. 3 damage weapons, it takes 3 of them, 3 hits to kill one of them. Give them a 5-up invuln, just takes the math to a really weird place. Because now on 7, if you take 6 damage, now you're down to 4 wounds on each. You take another one, now you're down to 2 wounds. You can take like 5 hits of a 3 damage weapon, or maybe 4, right? 4 hits, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll take like 4 hits from a 3 damage weapon before one of those dies with a 5-up Feel No Pain. Like, that's fucking crazy, dude. So, that's pretty much the end here, guys. I am going to leave it up to you to leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of the Adeptus Mechanicus. And if I missed any of their really, really good stuff, I know I didn't talk about 60% of their index here because this is just a Tactica. We just care about what is good and how to play the army the way that'll win us games and the units that matter. The enhancements, those are going to help us out, like getting Infiltrate, getting Fights First. all that goodness up in the hoodness. And so be sure to excavate the like button, subscribe to Theory Hammer, hit the bell icon as well so that you're notified every time we have a new video, and then check out our other videos as well. We got new videos on the way. We're always trying to improve, and we really appreciate it. So until next time, guys, make sure you use those sacred oils on whatever little bits you need to lubricate, and I will see you in the next one.